Hey everybody, welcome to Grimm's Forge Gaming. Today we are covering my Stamina DK build. We are running Sword and Board and 2H, or switch that around, 2H Sword and Board, depending on your play style. And let's jump right into the build. This has been working out really well for me. I am running two separate monster sets here. The reason being is we want that one piece armor bonus here, so we are a medium armor build, trying to push a lot of weapon damage and but we still want to be fairly tanky as well, and so we are running the two separate monster sets. And the um, first piece, first 5-piece set that we're running is Deadwater Guile. This is a alt gen build, and it's been working really well for me. It uh, helps us put people away, and it helps us survive. So anyways, this Deadwater Guile is a pretty interesting set. It gives us everything we need for PvP, as far as max stam, health, and weapon damage. But this 5-piece, when an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, you gain 5 ultimate, which happens a lot in BGs and in Imperial City and Cyrodiil. So as long as you're dotting people up, jumping in with your leap, and kind of making things happen, you're going to be rewarded with that. And I haven't noticed a cooldown on this, so that's kind of an interesting set. Definitely check that out. The second set that we are running is Champion of the Hist, and this has that minor heroism at all times while you're in combat. And the funny thing about this is, if you've ever been in Cyrodiil and stuck in combat, you're unable to mount. While you are in combat, you're generating one ultimate. So there is a little bit of a bonus for those moments where you just simply can't mount and you're stuck in combat. And this set's been working out really well for me as well. Double max stand bonuses, weapon damage again. And anyways, we have a Nirnhone two-hander that is my primary attack bar that I work off of, and then we're running Sword and Board, and I am running the immobilizing um, poisons on this, so might switch that up. I'm not really sure. It's been working out so far. Let's look at our stats buffed up here. And looks like we need to take a food. Our food had expired, so let's do that. We take the Bewitched Sugar Skulls. And looking at our stats on our two-hand bar, we're at 30k resistances, 4k weapon damage, just under 4100. Not worried about the crit, not worried about the resistances. This is an alt gen build on a Stam DK, and we live and die by our Battle Roar passive. So as long as we're pushing the action, and you need to find out that perfect um, pressure. How much can I push without running the tank too dry and then just leaving myself hung out to dry? But once you figure that out, this is not an issue. I really like where the health is at, just under 29k in Imperial City. That's great. Or when we're out in Cyrodiil, so that's a great number to be at. And I believe even when, let's look at our sword and board bar here. We are over cap on our resistances for a medium armor build. Weapon damage goes down to 3k, that's no problem. We're only going here to buff up, maybe apply some debuffs on people. But anyways, 33k stamina gives us enough stamina to do work, and 6k magicka is definitely doable as well. 54 into stamina, 10 into magicka, just to kind of get around that 16k magicka. And we are running the Warrior Mundus stones for that extra weapon damage, so that way we can hit that 41k or 41,000 on our two-hander. So here we go. And you can see that minor heroism buff. We are a vampire. We are a werewolf. Sorry. We do not use it currently. What I was finding was that I was more vulnerable during werewolf form than just running around on my sword and board bar or my two-hand bar, and I think it's because of the amount of poison damage that is out there right now. You had snipers, bow gang builds that were just blowing me up, and you have other DKs laying down some poison damage and stuff like that. And even though you gain like resistances as a werewolf and everything like that, I was just having more success not running it currently. And I'd like to figure out how we can successfully run that and not take as much damage as we were. It's very strange to be as tanky as I am outside of werewolf. As soon as we go werewolf, it's no problem for people. But anyways, crit resistance, I like to be between 1600 and 2000. Here we are again at 1600, so that's definitely where we aim to be. And let's look at our abilities here, unbuffed. Pretty basic setup. We've got our crit rush. Basically, it's a guaranteed critical hit, and that's our gap closer. And we're running Dizzy Swing, so it's got a just under 11k tooltip unbuffed, and we'll look at these when they are buffed. Running Reverse Slice, I like the splash damage from Reverse Slice. If I'm going against 2 people, 3 people, I only need to really kill one of them or get one of them low and into execute range, and then the splash damage from that will apply pressure to the rest of the group. Right now we're running Fossilize as our hard CC. It's been working out well. If you use Fossilize, you'll notice it's a little buggy on the aiming of it or the application of it. So I'll find myself needing to apply a CC, and there the target is no longer CC immune, but I just simply cannot hit him with Fossilize aiming wise. So I don't know what's going on with that. The hitbox or whatever is too small. But anyways, rally, we're running that, need that burst heal, and then we get the minor endurance from it. And we're running the two-hand ultimate. It's too nice of an ultimate not to run. If we really want to blow somebody up, this is the ultimate at 150, and we're an old gen build. This is up often, and we'll have to look at the buffed. Stat tooltips on those just to kind of see where we're at. 18,000, on that. I've seen higher for sure, but and our dizzy swings at 12,000. So we hit fairly hard on people. That's great. On our back bar, we're running Noxious Breath, and this actually hits pretty hard. The initial damage that it does is not too bad, and it's a conal effect in front of you, so you can hit multiple targets with it, and then applying that dot to them is great. Even more importantly, it applies major fracture, reducing their physical resistances. So I travel around the battlefield. I travel around Cyrodiil in on my sword and board bar. That's where I'm at resistant cap, and I have leap. So if I were to be jumped by 5 or 6 people or whatever, I would hit a real quick leap to get that damage shield, and then start applying my debuffs and figure out, is this something that we can kite around, or we're definitely going to have to fight these people. We are running Deep Slash. I do not need a Heroic Slash because we already have minor heroism at all times. So Deep Slash was definitely the play for me. And the tooltip on it isn't too bad, actually. It's not bad, and we're not buffed right now. So let's see what it is when we're buffed. And of course, remember that our weapon damage drops a lot on our back bar, almost 1,000. But we have a 7k tooltip on this. So this is my root or slow. This also slows people as well because of a DK passive, I believe. Right here, Warmth. When you deal direct damage with an Ardent Flame ability, you reduce the enemy's movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. And so when we hit them with this, their movement speed slowed by 30%, and we hit them with that, their movement speed slowed by 30%. So it makes it hard for them to get away. That's important to know for battlegrounds as well. If you're running the relic or they're running the relic and you want to keep them locked down in front of you, so either you can kill them or someone else can kill them, just make sure you maintain those on them, and the rest is history. I'm running Igneous Shield, and it doesn't give you a very big shield at all in PvP, but the major mending that it applies is great. So basically that's all I do. If I know that I need to throw some burst heals in, I'll make sure I hold block. We're going to hop around. We're going to hit our Igneous Shield. We're going to hit our Resolving Vigor, which is the next ability, and we're going to hit our Rally to get that burst heal. And usually that's what all we need. Because this build generates ult so fast, also you can don't count out the resources you get back in health. You get back from Battle Roar and hitting an ultimate on people. So if I'm being pressured, Ferocious Leap is the ultimate of choice because of the damage shield, and it gets right back up real quick at 125 ultimate, and we can just stay in the fight with these abilities, and someone gets low, switch to this real quick and try and burst them down. And most of the time, if I'm hanging out on this bar, they're standing and fighting too. I could switch to this bar real quick, hard CC them, and then go right back to this and um, get another leap off and see what we can do. Hardened Armor is the route that I went, and again, we've got kind of another damage shield here. This has worked out well, even though that's a tiny damage shield and that's a tiny damage shield together. They at least give our Resolving Vigor at least 1 or 2 ticks to get some work done, and you can kind of hide your Vigor. It's only 4 seconds that you need to hide it or protect that tick to get the full amount, but you can hide it behind these shields or hide it behind the shield that you get from Ferocious Leap. So it's important to know. Usually pick up all of your class passives and everything, and your two-hander, you're going to want to pick up all those passives. And Sword and Board, you'll want to pick up those passives. There we go. We just picked up another one. Look at us. We are winning. Right now I'm running medium armor, so pick up all the medium armor passives, and I do have a heavy armor version of this build, so um, I have all the passives for heavy armor as well. It's it's as simple as this too. So right now we're a medium armor build pushing 4K weapon damage. If I wanted to run a heavy armor version of this, I could probably hit 3,500 weapon damage on a heavy armor version of it. I could probably hit 4K weapon damage, to be honest, on a heavy armor, but you just simply move Hist, because it's a heavy armor, to your body pieces and pick up the jewelry and weapons for Deadwater Guile, which I have. And you could make an argument to run Bloodspawn here. That's fine. I wanted the static almost 6K armor. I wanted that armor all the time. Not that Bloodspawn is not up a lot, and the ult gen from Bloodspawn would kind of fit the theme of what we're doing here. Run Bloodspawn. That's fine. But for me, I wanted to make sure that there was zero downtime on my resistances, and so I just run 2 separate armor sets and kind of sacrifice having a functioning monster set. So we covered the Mundus, Lycanthropy, we've got Minor Heroism, and we're running Bewitched Sugar Skulls. Let's go look at our champion points. We've got nothing in, oh, sorry, we've got 40 in the Apprentice for the additional healing, so that's been working out really well. 60 at Master at Arms, which is kind of my soft cap, and then we have 40 into Physical Weapon Experts. We do light attack and heavy attack, and they're going to hit 22% harder. And over here we have a little bit in Thaumaturge. I might come off of this a little bit. I'm not entirely sure. Really that as far as damage over time, we've got our Noxious Breath, and that's about it. So I'm not sure that 32 points is a good trade-off for extra 13% damage on that. The primary use of Noxious Breath is to apply the debuff, the Fracture. So we might actually move this over to Piercing and get more penetration. And anyways, 33% into Precise Strikes for more critical damage, critical heals. And right now only 5 into Piercing, so like I said, that 32 is probably coming over here to make that 37. And we're at a soft cap right now where we want to be at 60 on Mighty. We do physical, we do poison, and we do disease damage, so that's kind of a triple bonus for us. Ironclad's definitely the play on pretty much every build. You should be putting points into Ironclad unless you're a Nightblade that can avoid damage altogether. And Ironclad, all of the big hitting abilities in the game that are going to chunk off a large portion of your life are going to be direct damage for the most part. And I think your subterranean assault and shocks from um, the Warden is direct damage, but it's also considered area of effect. So this covers it because it is direct damage. And we have 20 into resistances, and so here's the thing. I don't want to switch my CP over depending on what build I'm running, so I have 40 into medium armor expert, and I have 60 into heavy armor expert. If I end up staying at this medium armor expert build longer, I might take these points out and put them into the medium armor. Um, but in all reality, on our sword and board bar, we're already at caps, physical and spell resistant caps, so that might be lost points. We wouldn't even really need to put them in here, so we might actually dump them into resistances and just kind of bulk ourselves up even more. I used to run really heavy into Hardy and Elemental, and our physical and spell resistance was hurting because of it. Like it was just less, not hurting, but it was less. And then I took points out of Hardy, took points out of Elemental, and I moved them over to the actual armor experts or armor focuses, and we saw our numbers jump by a lot. You know, it says right here, physical resistance increased by almost 3,400 because I have 40 points into that. And the same would be for your spell resistance. If I had 40 points in that, it would almost jump by, um, 3,400. So if you want to bulk yourself up, um, the armor that you're running, put points into the focus on that, and put points into spell shield um, before you put points into these. And if you look at it, reduce your damage taken by flame, frost, shock, or magic damage by a percentage. And let's say someone's doing 10, you've got an incoming magic damage attack that's going to hit you for 10k. Right now, this ability, this 15 points, would reduce 4% of that. That's, really almost not even worth it. And so it was that thought process that made me lean a little bit more heavy into those. So um, 60 in heavy armor expert, I bounce back and forth between those. And then, like I said earlier, if I find myself spending more time on the medium armor build because we just have it all. We have the weapon damage that we want. We have the resistances that we want, and it's an old gen build, so we don't have problems with sustain. There's no need to run heavy armor right now. We'll switch that out. I am running 60 into recovery, so that way we've got additional healing received. And we run 60 in Warlord. We are going to get CC'd, and we will need to break it. And 60 is where we like to be on that. Running 60 in Mooncalf, 60 in Arcana, so that way we at least have that 12.57, 12%, additional recoveries in CP situations, and 20 in tenacity. We almost don't even need this, really. 5% into additional resources gained on heavy attacks. We are an old gen build that lives and dies off Battle Roar. We could move that somewhere else. We could probably move that to Shadow Ward, and honestly, that's probably the play too. There you see we can move those points there. I'm holding block when I'm on my sword and board bar, and I'm buffing up. I'm block casting my buffs, and that would help control or sustain my stamina during that period where we're under pressure. I find myself not blocking. That's kind of the only time I block is when we're jumping around hitting our buffs. The rest of the time I'll dodge roll something if I need to, and if I feel pressured. So 60 points into tumbling. That's our CP, and let's look at Werewolf. This is the Werewolf build that we run. Like I said, I was getting a lot of pressure in my Werewolf build. I did have to make the switch to Hircine's Fortitude for the heal. It's a really good heal, and It's really costly though, and if you look at it, it scales off your Max Magicka. So basically, this build has two heals in it because of our Max Magicka where we're at. We're at 16k, and so we'll say three. We can get three of these heals off. Two of these heals, and then after a tick or two, three of these heals. But then after that, we're relying on our Magicka regen, which is low, and we're stuck in an ultimate. So that's where the problem is. We're an ult gen build, and we're no longer to capitalize on our Battle Roar passive. So makes sense. Anyways, this is what I like to run, Claws of Life, so that way we can do an AoE damage, apply a dot, and we're healed for 109% of the damage. Howl of Agony is kind of your direct damage attack, and we'll make sure that we do Ferocious Roar, which is a fear, and we'll fear people, and then we'll start hitting them with the Howl of Agony, and Feral Pounce, which just adds duration to our werewolf. On this guy right now, we're currently running the Berserker werewolf for the additional damage. Our light attacks apply a bleed, and so he doesn't lack damage in werewolf. He doesn't lack resistances. He lacks the ability to capitalize on the ult gen portion of the build, and we miss out on battle roar as the DK. So pick up all your passives there. I'm not saying DK is broken or unable to be used. I'm saying for this setup, it's not ideal. So I did play around with Dawnbreaker or whatever, but the two-hand ult and Ferocious Leap was just too good of a combo to have. I do have Banish the Wicked, so we do have additional ult coming in from that. And I do not do dungeons on this guy hardly at all. I PvP almost exclusively on this guy, and so we haven't even hit our Undaunted passives. Once we do that, we would actually gain stats on this guy. And so anyways, our race, we are a Nord, and increase the duration of any consumed drink by 15 minutes. That's cool. Some max health and then cold resistance. Max stam, that's great. Here's another example. When you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate. This effect can occur every 10 seconds. So we have ult coming in from taking damage on this build too. And then here's the great thing about Nords right now. If you want to build a tanky class, Nord is probably the way to go because of the rugged passive. You get almost 4k resistances, physical and spell, by being a Nord. And so that's what allows me to be able to hit my resistance caps on a medium armor build on my Sword and Board bar, hitting my resistance caps because we're running the 2 random monster sets for almost 6k static resistances, and I'm a Nord. I get almost 4k resistances there, and that puts us here. So 3500 weapon damage isn't bad on your Sword and Board bar. 4100 isn't bad on your two-hand bar. I know there's two-handers builds out there that are running 7k weapon damage and 6k weapon damage, and that's fine. They can do that. This build's just been working really well for me. And so the food, we talked about that, Bewitched Sugar Skull, and the potions that I like to run on this build. I have a handful of them, and I'd like to thank a buddy of mine, Dan, for making some potions for me. Danuxum, that's him there, created by. And so anyways, we like to run the Essence of Immovability. It gives me health, gives me stamina, and applies that immune to knockback. That's pretty important in PvP. Basically, you can use this as a preemptive just before you're leaping into a group, and that you know that at least for the next 10 seconds I can't be CC'd, so let's try and get as much done as we can in that time frame. And so I think probably using it preemptively is the better play. If you look at the alternative, I jump into a group, someone CCs me, I have CC immunity for the next 4 or 5 seconds. If I were to use the potion then, some of that knockback immunity is wasted while I'm already CC immune, and I'd be using that potion to heal myself and gain stamina to recover from the break free and whatever had happened. So um, I don't know. That's just kind of something to take into consideration. See if using this preemptively actually helps the battles go in your favor more times than not. And this one is actually a fun one too. I use this one a lot just because it it's got that major brutality. That's fine. We're gonna have that buff anyways, and it gives you stamina. But the major expedition was great for the movement speed, and it helped us speed around the battlefield. And it's hard lining up your dizzy swing, but this made it easier in fights to line up your dizzy swing and keep pressure on people. And I use this one more times than not in BGs too that require speed, running the relic or capturing, stopping the relic runner. So that is the build, alt regen build, Deadwater Guile, and Champion of the Hist. And you can mix and match those two setups, and it's been working great. Everybody have a great day.